Hello, and thanks for joining me. I've had the privilege of testing some pretty extreme cars this year, most notably the Lamborghini Revuelto, McLaren 750S, and Ferrari Purosangue, to name just a few. But nothing has been more extreme or left field than this. This is the Morgan Plus 6. And if you're up to school with your Morgan history, you'll be aware that this family of models dates back well over half a century. In fact, I think probably more like 70 years or so. But some steady evolution over the years has kept the car sort of still relevant in today's market. So this is available as a brand new car. And among the upgrades over the years, in 2019, Morgan completely re-engineered the car. So there's a brand new aluminium chassis, but there is still the wooden ash framework on top of which the aluminium bodywork is clothed. And in terms of powertrain, under that long bonnet sits BMW's B58 3-liter 6-cylinder turbo engine. It's good for 340 horsepower and 500 newton meters of torque, which are huge outputs when you consider that this car weighs only 1075 kilos. That's dry weight, so you could figure on a curb weight of let's say 1150 to 1200, somewhere in that range, which is a lot lighter than any BMW that uses this engine. Weight, of course, in all BMW models, as with most other manufacturers, weights are blowing out. So even the current M2, I think, is more than 1.7 tons. So mated to the 3-liter turbo engine is the 8-speed ZF automatic, and there's even the same gear shift lever that you'd find in a BMW. So Morgan quotes a 0 to 100 of 4.2 seconds, top speed of 267 kilometers an hour. But bear in mind that there are no driver aids at all in this car. So there's no traction control, stability control, or any of that stuff. So it's just down to you to make sure that you don't end up in the weeds. And then you have these nice 19-inch rims, 2 4.5s on the back, and I think 2 2.5s on the front. So there's a pretty decent contact patch for a car that doesn't weigh very much. And as you can see, even though Morgan has re-engineered the car in 2019, the styling theme is still largely as per the original. Just, of course, some more modern looking headlights, etc. But basically the styling theme is largely as per the original. So there's this extremely long bonnet and a very short tail, so you sit virtually over the rear axle. And that takes a little bit of getting used to. I've been driving this car now for the last 2 days. And for the first, let's say, half hour or so, I was still getting used to the fact that there was such a long bonnet in front of me. But actually that's something that sort of pales into insignificance after a while. You just sort of get used to it. And the fact that you have these sort of headlamp pods and these raised wheel arches, which are visible from the driver's seat, they really help in placing the car. So it's quite an easy car to place on the road, but I will say that these mirrors, they're useless pretty much. So you can't really, they're just too small to be of any real value. And also this one won't sit in the spot where I'd adjusted it. So that was completely useless, which means that lane changes are largely an exercise in guesswork. And look at these wipers. I don't think you'll ever see smaller wipers, and 3 of them, by the way, which I haven't seen on any car, the smallest wipers I've ever seen on any car. I didn't have to use them, fortunately. It's been bone dry the last couple of days. And I must admit, really enjoyed driving this car. It's it is very compromised in many ways, because, as I mentioned, rearward visibility is not great. There's a lot of wind noise, also rattles. Ride quality is pretty firm, and also there's the fact that these windows, they're proper old school. There we go. Proper old school windows. So you have to slide this little knob, but it's jammed into place, so neither can I open it or close it fully. So you have this little gap here. So I've had to live with wind noise for the past couple of days. The seats, not great for long trips. I think you'd have a solid backache if you had to do a stint longer than 3 or 4 hours. There's no rake adjustment, so all you can do is just slide it back and forth via that little lever there. And this is basically what the view looks like from behind the driver's seat. And so you have this. I haven't stuck a key in an ignition for a while. Plonk that in and then fire it up. And so you have these little instruments here. Sorry about the glare. And some old style, which are kind of like Smith's dials. If you have ever driven an old Jaguar or Triumph, it's they're in that sort of style. There's the gear knob I mentioned, straight out of a BMW. You have these rotary vents, which are nice, and I do like this sort of knurled aluminium handbrake lever. You'll notice there's no cubby holes, no door pockets anywhere to keep anything. So the only space basically you have to keep your wallet, phone, keys, etc. That's it. That's all you get. So as I mentioned, this car does entail quite a lot of compromises. So it's obviously not going to be your daily driver. Don't know if you managed to hear that, but that BMW Straight 6 is a lovely engine. Sounds better in this car than in any BMW. So yeah, in many ways it's a very likable thing. Really engaging, sounds great, it's quick, it handles pretty well up to a point. I would say I feel comfortable driving this at maybe 8 or 9 tenths. But beyond that, I'd say you're probably living a bit dangerously. Firstly, there's no aids to save you if you overcook it. Also, the car gets unsettled by mid-corner bumps. So if you do encounter a bump in mid-corner, it really doesn't like that. It unsettles the car a lot. So you do need to treat it with some respect. But up to 8 or 9 tenths, it's really engaging, enjoyable, a lot of fun to drive. And yes, I'd say it's fair to say this car won't be for everyone. There's just too many compromises, probably for maybe 90 or 99% of car buyers out there. But I tell you, for the 1% or 10%, this really does nail the sweet spot. It's something really quite unique. And then the other thing I should point out is that as I mentioned earlier, with this job that I do, I have the privilege of driving all kinds of supercars. I think I've driven pretty much every supercar under the sun. But nothing has got more thumbs up and more approving smiles more people taking photos and videos than this car. So if you like to be the center of attention, yeah, well, you definitely be that in this car. And it's also something very unique because really there's not too much else like it. There is, of course, the UAE's own Janarelli, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Haven't driven that one, but I've heard good things about it. Yeah, so there aren't really too many things like this. In some ways it reminded me of driving maybe a 2 or 3 generation old BMW Z3M or Z4M. But yeah, even that doesn't quite sum it up. It's really an experience that's unlike anything else out there. So that is the Morgan Plus 6, a car that I've really enjoyed pedaling over the last couple of days, and it will be with some remorse that I hand it back shortly. Thanks very much for watching. See you in the next video.